Okay, so turn into the site plan. Um, Apologize, we weren't able to get this sent out with the packet, but we did send it to you earlier this week. Hopefully you had some time to take a look at it. Let's see if I can look at this. Full screen. There we go. Okay, so looking at the site plan, their plan is to demolish all the buildings along Clark Street. There would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 3 full modules and 2 half modules of parking. I guess we could just go through this sheet I handed out with the zoning analysis. The required parking for the use would be 120 spaces. They're showing 188 spaces. There was a little confusion with the memo on the space count because we had counted the spaces on the street along Busey Avenue. Those are technically in the right-of-way, so they don't count as the church's parking lot. Handicap accessible parking spaces, they're providing the required amount. Shade trees you can see spread out through the site, and they're not just shoved towards the edge, which is definitely a plus. They're providing all 21 of those that are required. The setback, let me zoom in a little bit here. So the required setback in the R5 district is 15 feet, and you can see all along the edge of the property they are keeping outside of the required setback. Let's see, they're providing bicycle parking. There's 12 bike spaces required. They've got 6 racks that each fit 2 bicycles, so that's a check. And the parking space dimensions and the aisle dimensions, they're all kosher. Let's see. And a couple other things. The site plan shows some underground stormwater detention areas, so that'll help with the increased pervious area or impervious area. That water will be detained before being released. For lighting, the church has agreed to comply with the zoning ordinance lighting requirements, so they'll have full cutoff fixtures. They haven't gotten to the point where they know exactly what those fixtures will be, but we'll be reviewing and making sure they match our requirements. Access points, in the memo, I had mistakenly said the access points will remain the same. So actually they're going to be removing one access point, the one that goes on to Clark Street. They'll close that curb cut. And instead of having the alley access where it currently is, they're going to shift that slightly to the north and widen it as required by the zoning ordinance to have a 2-way drive. It has to be slightly wider. Let's see, storage buildings. Also, the site plan I sent out with the memo had the storage buildings in the wrong place. They'll be moved to the northeast corner here and outside of the required yard, though. So I think those are the main elements of the plan. I'll just go through our special use permit criteria real quickly. The 3 criteria for a special use permit. The first one, that the proposed use is conducive to the public convenience at that location. Basically, this site has had a church for over 100 years, and it's basically the proposed special use permit would allow the church to expand on its current location and remain here. Too often we see churches that have to relocate to greenfield sites out on the edge of town. So it's good to maintain this neighborhood amenity instead of losing it. The block already hosts the church and some parking as it is, so it's something the neighborhood's used to. Let's see. One thing to look at, parking requirements in the zoning ordinance. Parking, only one space per 5 seats are required, and that may not quite be enough for modern church use when it's packed to the brim. So in order to get some cars off of the streets, off of the street parking, it's good to have some extra parking. Second condition or criteria, that the proposed use is designed, located, and proposed to be operated so it will not be unreasonably injurious or detrimental to the neighborhood, or otherwise injurious to the public welfare. Basically, they're proposing, with the expansion, they'll be able to have fewer services, so there will be less times of cars going in and out. So that'll be less injurious to the neighborhood. The access points also will be reduced and slightly shifted. There will be screening. I don't think I mentioned that before, but there is screening shown on the plan between the parking lot and the adjacent residences as required. So it should be buffered by the screening, and that should reduce the impact on the neighborhood. Also, the applicant has stated mature trees are going to be they're going to remain within the right-of-way and the parkway by the sidewalk. So the final criteria, that the proposed use conforms to applicable regulations and standards of and preserves the essential character of the district in which it shall be located. So basically, the proposed parking lot does conform to the zoning ordinance regulations for the R5 district. Screening, lighting, drainage will all be improved. And the parking lot will serve as a kind of a transition from the residences to the south to the hospital to the north. So options tonight, Plan Commission has the following options. Number 1, recommend approval of the special use permit without additional conditions. Option 2, recommend approval with conditions as deemed appropriate. And option number 3, recommend denial of the special use permit. Staff's recommendation tonight is for Plan Commission to recommend that City Council approve the proposed special use permits subject to the following conditions. 1, that the revised site plan is submitted reflecting conformance to the zoning ordinance standards for parking lot standards, landscaping requirements, lighting and parking lot setback requirements. And this condition was actually proposed before the revised site plan was approved, so Plan Commission could strike that. And the other condition is that adjacent residential uses will be protected from impacts of the expanded parking area through an adequate landscape buffer to be approved by the zoning administrator. And that's just something we'll look at the time they actually install the landscape buffer. So I would be happy to answer questions for staff, and the applicant is here to give a presentation after that.
Any questions for Mr. Engstrom? Mr. Bell?
I see there's an overhead electric line running down the alley. This may be more for the applicant, but is that going to stay? Do we need an easement? And are there any other city utilities that run underneath here that we need easements for?
I understand they will be relocating that utility, but there is also a sanitary sewer which will remain, which will require an easement.
Okay.
Mr. Otto.
Storm sewer.
What is the city practice on vacating an alley? What is required?
Basically, the process is if all of the property owners who use that alley agree to it, the city gets an estimate of the market value of the alley, and the adjacent users purchased the alley from the city by ordinance.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Thank you, Mr. Ingstrom. I'll give you a brief rundown of our procedures for public hearings. Petitioner will outline the request. Other proponents may present evidence. Opponents may present evidence and ask questions through me to the petitioner. Staff may make additional comments or clarification. Petitioner may rebut any opposition and summarize your case. And then we will discuss it, and then we may vote on it. So if the petitioner would like to step forward and state your name and sign in on the paper. Just leave that on there, actually. Sure. That's fine.
Good evening. I'm Chris Billing with Burns Clancy and Associates Engineers here in Urbana, just down the street. I'm the civil engineer here we're representing the civil engineers for the project. The architect for the building project is out of St. Louis and is not here tonight, but the issue really is the parking lots. Jeff really did an excellent job of really presenting the whole thing, and I'm not going to represent that. I will make a couple of additional comments and then basically be here to entertain your questions. I will very quickly just kind of give you the bigger ballpark picture of the church, the new church addition, and it's due primarily, again, the church was originally built about a little over 100 years ago, I think by 40 families, and certainly the parish has grown over time, and we just definitely need more space to do all of the activities, services and our liturgies all changed in the last 100 years, so definitely just need more space, and that's the crux of the reasoning why the project is going ahead. And the parish started 15 or 20 years ago looking at this, and has looked at it periodically. And 5 to 7 years ago, did an assessment, kind of put together this sort of program, have been studying it and raising funds to undertake it. All the properties on the block had been purchased, so the parish has owned those for quite some time in anticipation of being able to develop the new space here as opposed to moving it out to the edge of town somewhere. So quickly, I think that exhibit is what came in your packet originally, and that I just put that up briefly to show. I know I'm away from the microphone here. The existing church building sitting over here on the western edge of the property, and the parish center that's been constructed in stages over years sits over here, and the proposed expansion then would connect the two facilities. There's about a little over a 5-foot elevation difference in first floor, so we have a little bit of some stairs. There will be an elevator that will go up and be able to hit all of the elevations, so everything will be totally accessible from one end to the other throughout. So it actually works out very nice for all the space that's needed for all the activities that happen, not just Mass on Sundays. That does change the front door, which currently is to the south right here, so it's the front door of the church. This expansion will really cause the front door to be located back here of this plaza. So that will actually align. There's existing parking down here, which is kind of around the back side of church. That actually puts the parking right here at the front door. So for all the people that do drive and all, this is going to be very convenient and very usable. Again, not just for services on Saturday and Sunday, but also the activities that go on at the parish center. It'll all work very nicely together. Now, and Jeff did mention we are going to be keeping the same style architectural and all, so it fits into the neighborhood the same. These are some renderings from the architect. The existing church is this building right here. The addition will come out sideways onto the east side, matching the same architectural style. This is a view from Main Street. This would be the backside from the back, looking at the new front door. So again, the existing church building is back here. The new addition comes out this way, and the new entrance vestibule that you either can go into church or go into the parish center from that directly. So that's what it looks like. And this is a shot of the inside architecture of the existing church and what is it's still proposed to maintain that same style of architecture inside. So structurally will be fun to connect the pieces together and get them all to work. But quickly, that's the driving force behind what's the parking, what's required for the parking. I'll go ahead and put this up. This is the same exhibit that you have on your computer screen or on the screen here. And again, I don't want to talk too much other than what Jeff has done a pretty good job of really outlining all the important details and all. But we did work within the front yard setbacks around the site, constrained the parking, worked out a geometry and a good traffic flow within the parking lot, and have arrived then at that total of 188 spaces. And we think then it's a net benefit definitely to the neighborhood, because we can take a little of the pressure off street parking when we have the big services. If there more parking on site, there's I grew up in a family that was more than 5 people, but there just aren't many families of 5 or more that come anymore. So definitely the parking spaces are needed. And I think this allows us great access. All the handicapped spaces are located centrally right by that front entrance, so they're accessible to both the parish center and to the church. So they're geometrically everything is laid out, I think, for access on the site very well. Maybe at that, I'll go ahead and just ask if there are some questions.
Mr. Fell.
Your initial layout had all the parking modules at 90 degrees. Just out of curiosity, why'd you change that? Was it over the setback? I mean,
It was primarily because of the setback. We would have kept it at 90 degrees if there was room, but we couldn't do that.
Any further? Mr. Otto.
Given that you're at about 150% of zoning requirements for parking, any consideration to doing the same for your bikes? You're only at zoning for bikes, and in this neighborhood 3 families of 4 would top out your bike racks, and they're cheap.
That certainly is a doable thing. We still have to work with the architect, in the final arrangement. So we might move the bike rack around just a little bit, or something of that nature. I over the many years that I'm a parishioner too, so I've been at church. I've asked a few people, and we've probably not seen any more than 2 or 3 bikes there ever at once. So we certainly can accommodate 12, and if it'd be easy enough to put some more in, at any time, if we really had some usage, which would be great. But yeah.
Anything further? Thanks. I invite any other proponents of the request to address the Plan Commission. Is there anyone here who is opposed to this request who would like to address the Plan Commission? Is there anyone who would just like to address the Plan Commission? If it's on another matter, on this case? Oh, on this case? Okay, well, please come. Yeah, could you come to the mic, please? I need for you to come to the mic. Thank you. It's a legal thing.
Matter, but I live on Kohler, right across from the church, and it looks like there's going to be a new garbage and recycling facility, like little storage area, exactly opposite my house.
Ma'am, could I ask your name, please?
Stephanie
And get you to
Foote.
sign the sheet. I'm a stickler
I
for
signed the sheet. Stephanie
regulations.
Foote.
Okay, yeah. So now you're addressing the garbage.
Just wondering if there's any way that could be maybe moved near the storage buildings. Not that I'm sure it won't be lovely to look at, architecturally sound and full of holiness, but I don't totally want to look at it. That's all I had to say. Wondering if it could be moved, if any additions could be made to the plans.
Well, we'll certainly discuss that
Okay.
during our deliberations. And I don't know if anyone from the... Thank you. Sure. If you'd like to address that.
I certainly can do that. It's located there so that it's very close to where all of the activity comes from out of the parish center. There's a kitchen there on the north side, and also it is there close. It is located by the entrance so that the garbage trucks, which heavier vehicles coming in and out, that's usually, of course, done different times of the day when parking's in there. But we can keep the area that they go through the lot kind of dedicated and contained. So we'll be providing heavier duty pavement there by those entrances and that main drive aisle there along the east side of the lot, so that'll be heavier duty pavement to accommodate those garbage trucks. And it is set back off of back into the parking lot, off of those the setback, so that we'll be sure to put some screening and all in there. The area that we have now is made with architectural concrete block, so it's not standard concrete block. It's got a nicer finish and all. And I realize garbage and trash and recycling areas are never desirable anywhere, but you have to have them, so you just have to find the best place for them, and that seems to meet the needs without running those heavy trucks all the way through the parking lot onto all of the rest of the pavement. But we will there'll be some screening on there, and it will be not invisible, but certainly less noticeable. Yes.
Mr. Fell.
Follow-up question for that. What kind of dumpster goes in there? They have a 5-yard dumpster. What are we putting in there? Because that's a really big garbage containment space.
And that's actually what's there now. It's just in a different location on the site. Right now, it's located right adjacent to the alley, and so but the position has to be moved. It doesn't fit the new geometry and all anymore. So it's big enough to it has a small dumpster in there and containers for recycling.
Okay.
And also all of that does take a little bit of space.
Any further questions on that topic? Thank you. Does anybody else care to address this case at this time? If not, well, I'll open it up for discussion among the planning commissioners. Staff, sure.
I assume a dumpster is subject to the same screening requirements that a parking lot would be?
Yes, actually, dumpsters are required to be screened by a wall or fence. In
But
addition.
nothing additional to that? No, that we don't have a landscape buffer like we do for parking or things like that?
I don't think there is required. But you could add that as a condition.
Right. Yeah, part of the difficulty, I think, in moving the dumpster across the parking lot also would be people taking trash out, because then you'd have to walk about 200 feet with your trash. And so you'd have to have a cart, I guess, or just carry it about 200 feet, which is a possibility, but it's certainly less, it's not optimal or desirable from that standpoint.
Do you have something, Mr. Ash?
I was agreeing with him that it would be burdensome to do that. But I did have a question to the point of the enclosure. It seems that they've promised that it would be aesthetically sound, and that was my biggest concern. I'm not so sure that it's the Commission's desire to make it a requirement, But I don't know how we should proceed in that, but it seems that the good faith promise has been made that it would be aesthetically pleasing, the dumpster that would be.
The enclosure around the dumpster. Yeah. Any other thoughts, or Ms. Upaban?
Well, I heard bushes. Maybe I was
Do
the
you-
only one that heard bushes, but I'd like bushes there, or something.
Do you feel strongly enough to
No,
add that into the condition? Or?
believe
Yeah.
him.
Yeah, we do have that recorded.
It's the church. Trust
Sure.
the
No, I
church.
understand. But yeah, it's a boon to the neighborhood, in my opinion. But be good neighbors too, and work with them. Do we have anything else? Motions? Anything else you'd like to discuss? Oh, I do have one thing, actually. I wanted to know about the condition, condition 1. Did I take it the revised site plan meets condition 1? Essentially complies with the zoning ordinance.
Yes, it does.
So essentially, we don't need condition 1 anymore.
That's correct.
How does everyone feel about adding a condition that say it must comply with the site plan, the revised site plan?
Again, I would caution us to say it must comply with the site plan. And I think we can say it must generally
whatever we
conform to the
usually
site
say.
plan,
Sure.
because something will come up that they have to lose a parking space.
Right, there's
or-
some language that,
Yeah.
that we usually have. I think that is better than what we've got here. All right. Ms. Upaban.
I'll go ahead and make a motion.
Okay.
I'll move the plan case number 2213 SU13, a request by St. Patrick's Church for a special use permit to establish an accessory parking lot at 701, 703, 705, 707, 709 West Clark, and 310 North Busey Avenue in the R5 medium high density residential district be approved.
Okay.
Sent to council. Is that enough?
Sent to council with the recommendation for approval with the conditions.
That's of course what I meant.
Yes. Okay. Motion by Ms. Upaban, seconded by Mr. Ash. And then when you're ready, if we could have a roll call.
Mr. Fell. Yes. Mr. Fitch.
Yes.
Mr. Otto.
Yes.
Ms. Upabant.
Yes.
And Mr. Ash.
Yes.
That motion passes. And when will this be going to the city council?
Monday, October 7th.
Monday, October 7th. All right. Thank you, gentlemen. And thank you for your testimony as well. Let's see, where are we? We don't have any new business. Is there anybody who would like to address us on anything else? It appears not. Staff report?
On October 10th, that Thursday night, we would normally hold a Plan Commission meeting, but instead of holding our regular Plan Commission meeting, we would ask that you would consider attending the Citizen Planners Workshop that's going to take place in Champaign. It's a county-wide event. Plan commissions from all over the county, municipalities, the county itself. There's even townships, some townships with their own plan commission. And it'll be a great opportunity for learning new things, to hone skills, bring your toughest questions, get them answered. And we have out-of-town folks coming in who are certified planners to have the presentation, and there'll also be a meal as well, provided free of charge. Anyone wanting to register for the event, please let Terry know. She'll make arrangements for you, and we'll pay all the registration fees and make all the arrangements. Also, on November 7th, our Plan Commission meeting that night, we're looking at holding a Greenways and Trails study session. There's a Greenways and Trails plan that's being undertaken currently. and we'd like to hold a study session to review a draft Greenways and Trails plan that would come before you at some point for your recommendation and hopefully for City Council approval. And then finally, the city has contracted with the Regional Planning Commission to update our award-winning bicycle master plan. And you may remember that's a comprehensive plan element as well. And so with this update, which was the original plan was approved in 2008, since that time things have changed. There's been a lot of progress actually, but also just the expectations of the public has changed. The types of facilities that people want to see have changed, is changed. And so this amendment we would see as also being a comprehensive plan amendment as well, and that would come before you, I think, next spring is probably when that would happen.
Thank you, Mr. Myers. Anything further? All right, we don't have a study session, and so we're adjourned.